The moment I casually opened my wife's wallet, I had to doubt my own eyes. Tucked away in a shiny wrapper was a suspicious item, a condom. Why is this in here? Does she have another man behind my back? In that instant, a volatile mix of rage and confusion consumed me. I picked up a small needle and pricked a minuscule hole in the wrapper. It was a late autumn evening when Arthur Davies, 46, returned home, loosening his tie as he always did. This quiet moment, marking the end of a long workday, was usually his sanctuary of peace. In the living room, his wife, Eleanor, was finishing the washing up, and the evening news was murmuring from the television. "Arthur, love, could you grab my bank card for me? It's in my handbag," Eleanor called from the kitchen, wiping her damp hands on a tea towel. Normally, it would have been a simple request, but tonight, her voice seemed to carry a subtle, unfamiliar tension. "Where did you say it was?" "It should be in my wallet. I need to send some money to Chloe for her expenses." Arthur picked up Eleanor's black leather handbag and pulled out the wallet. In over 20 years of marriage, he had rarely rummaged through her personal belongings. Eleanor was meticulous with their finances, and Arthur trusted her completely. As he opened the wallet to find the card, he noticed it seemed thicker than usual. Wedged between credit cards and loyalty cards were several receipts. Most were from the local Tesco or Boots, but a few receipts from cafes he didn't recognize caught his eye. That's odd. When did Eleanor go to places like this? He examined them more closely. They weren't from the local coffee shop she frequented, but from trendy places in central London. What's more, they were all time-stamped in the afternoon. He checked the dates last week and the week before. Did she have some special reason to be in the city? As he slid his hand deeper into the wallet to find the card, his fingertips brushed against something small and square. At first, he thought it might be a tablet of paracetamol or a sweet, but when he pulled it out, it was something entirely unexpected. It was a condom. Arthur's breath caught in his throat. He stared at the small packet in his hand, a sense of unreality washing over him. It was right there, yet he couldn't believe it. What shocked him even more was that there wasn't just one. Peeking into a small inner pocket of the wallet, he found another identical wrapper. "What on earth is this?" he muttered, pushing the items back into the wallet. His hands were trembling violently. In his 46 years, he had never imagined facing a situation like this. Suddenly, the sound of his wife's laughter from the living room felt alien. Eleanor, chuckling at something on the TV, looked different to him now. She seemed like someone with a secret, lost in a world of her own. "Did you find the card, love?" Eleanor's voice drifted from the kitchen. Normally, he would have answered without a thought, but today, the words felt stuck in his throat. "Yes, just a moment." Arthur forced his voice out and retrieved the card. His mind, however, was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. Why would my wife have something like that in her wallet? How long has she been carrying them? And who are they for? "Thanks," Eleanor said, walking over to take the card from him. Arthur studied her expression intently, wondering if she had noticed him searching her wallet. But Eleanor seemed completely normal. "I'm sending Chloe her allowance." "How much should I send?" "Oh, the usual amount should be fine, I suppose." Arthur's reply was uncharacteristically brief. Usually, he'd ask about their daughter's studies and life at university. But today, he couldn't focus. Noticing her husband's strange behavior, Eleanor looked at him with concern. "Arthur, what's wrong? Did something happen at work today?" "No, nothing. I'm fine." Arthur sank onto the sofa and stared at the television, but the images on the screen were a meaningless blur. His mind was fixated on what he had found in his wife's wallet. They had been married for over 2 decades. They had no plans for more children, and there was no need for contraception. After their daughter Chloe was born, their physical intimacy had naturally become less frequent. So why, then, would his wife be carrying such things? A memory of his father surfaced. He vividly remembered the shock of the day his mother, crying, told him his father was seeing another woman. Arthur was just a teenager. His mother had shown him a hotel receipt she found in his father's pocket, her tears staining the paper. No, surely not. Not in my family. Arthur shook his head, trying to banish the thought. He wanted to believe Eleanor wasn't that kind of person. In over 20 years together, he had never once had a reason to doubt her. But once the seed of suspicion was planted, everything began to look different. Lately, it seemed Eleanor was going out more often than usual. She would say she was meeting friends or going to the supermarket, but she would be gone for longer than before, and he'd noticed her spending more time on her smartphone. She used to prefer watching TV or reading, but recently she was always glued to her phone, seemingly messaging someone. "Darling, I'm heading to bed. I'm feeling a bit tired," Eleanor said with a yawn. It seemed earlier than usual. "All right, good night." As Arthur replied, he watched her back carefully, searching for any other sign of change. Eleanor tidied her cosmetics on the dresser and changed into her pajamas as she always did. But to Arthur, everything she did now seemed suspicious. Watching his wife walk into the bedroom, a storm of emotions churned within him. Does she really have another man? Or am I just being paranoid? Left alone in the living room, Arthur was lost in thought for a long time. The very act of suspecting his wife was painful, but he couldn't simply ignore what he had found. I have to be sure. His resolve hardened, and he rose silently from the sofa. He decided to check her wallet again while she was asleep. Tiptoeing into the bedroom, he found Eleanor already in a deep sleep. Listening to her steady breathing, he cautiously approached her handbag. He opened the wallet again. The items were still there. After a moment of hesitation, Arthur retrieved a small needle from the sewing kit. Then, carefully, so as not to tear the packaging, he pricked a tiny, almost invisible hole in one of the wrappers. If she still uses this, then I'll know for sure. Arthur knew what he was doing was wrong. But in that moment, the memory of his childhood resurfaced the image of his mother, crying on the day his father left after his affair was exposed. I will never be like my father. That vow had hardened into an obsession, now leading him to this foolish act. After putting the wallet back, Arthur lay down, but sleep wouldn't come. Staring at the ceiling, all sorts of scenarios played out in his mind. Does my wife truly have another man? When did it start? The next morning, Arthur woke up much earlier than usual. He wanted to observe his wife's every move. Eleanor was preparing breakfast, just as she always did. The familiar sounds of the coffee machine, the toaster popping, and eggs sizzling in the pan seemed normal, but to Arthur's jaundiced eye, everything was suspect. You're up early today, love. Yes, I just woke up. Eleanor handed him a cup of coffee and studied his face. He looked more troubled than usual. Are you feeling all right? You look pale. I'm fine, just didn't sleep well. Arthur sipped his coffee, his gaze never leaving his wife. The way she checked her hair in the mirror, applied her lipstick, and took extra care in choosing her outfit. It all seemed different today. Are you going out anywhere today? Arthur asked cautiously. No, nothing special. Just planning to pop to Tesco later. Eleanor's answer was natural, but Arthur couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. He felt his heart pound when he saw her check her wallet as she packed her handbag, wondering if she had noticed he'd tampered with it. Right. I'm off to work then. Okay. Have a good day. Normally, they would part with a quick goodbye at the door, but today, Arthur lingered, watching his wife's reaction. Eleanor waved him off just like any other day, but to him, her expression seemed to hold a hint of relief. On the train into London, Arthur's thoughts were consumed by his wife. Is she meeting someone after I leave? Is she really going to use that condom? He found it hard to concentrate at the office. Even while talking to colleagues, his mind would drift. Arthur, you all right, mate? You seem a million miles away, said David, his colleague from the next desk. Just a bad night's sleep. Anything wrong at home? You've seemed a bit off for a few days now. Hearing this, Arthur realized his preoccupation was becoming obvious. Since the suspicion began, he hadn't been able to focus on anything. By lunchtime, he had made a decision. He couldn't go on like this, drowning in suspicion. He needed concrete proof. That evening, when he returned home, Arthur began to watch his wife's every move even more meticulously. And over the next few days, he discovered more and more suspicious signs. Small actions he would have previously ignored now seemed deeply significant. On Tuesday evening, Arthur came home to find Eleanor in the kitchen, talking on her phone. Her voice was lower than usual, and she quickly ended the call the moment she heard him come in. Who was that? Arthur asked, taking off his tie. Oh, just Chloe's friend's mum. Nothing important. Her answer seemed natural, but Arthur sensed a flicker of panic in her eyes. Usually, she would recount the details of a friend's call, but today she just brushed it off. Oh, right. Anything interesting happen? No, just a catch-up. Really. Arthur studied her face. Eleanor seemed a little tense, but it was hard to be certain. During dinner, he continued his surveillance. She placed her phone face down on the table, and every time a notification buzzed, she would subtly glance at it. This was not her usual behavior. You're getting a lot of messages these days. Oh, it's just the girls on the group chat. They never stop, she replied with a laugh. But the laugh felt forced to Arthur. Eleanor had never paid much attention to group chats before. The next morning, Arthur left for work 30 minutes later than usual, wanting to observe her further. As soon as she thought he was gone, Eleanor made a phone call. Arthur, who had quietly opened the front door a crack, heard her speaking in a hushed, cautious voice. Is it safe to talk now? About that thing we discussed yesterday? Arthur wanted to hear more, but he was genuinely going to be late for work. He left for the station with a heavy heart. During his lunch break, Arthur called home something he rarely did. He was curious to know what she was doing. Hello? Eleanor. It's me. What are you up to? Oh, Arthur. Why the sudden call? Is everything okay? Her voice sounded slightly flustered. Yes, fine. Just wondering. Are you at home? Yes, I'm at home. Just folding the laundry. Okay then. See you later. After hanging up, a strange feeling washed over Arthur. His wife's voice had been strained, as if she were trying to quickly wrap up a situation. That evening, when he returned home, he detected an unfamiliar scent of perfume on Eleanor. It was different from her usual one, something stronger, more sensual. Did you buy new perfume? Oh, this? A friend gave it to me as a gift. Eleanor's reply was smooth, but to Arthur, it sounded rehearsed. When the weekend arrived, Eleanor announced she was meeting some old friends. Where are you meeting? At a cafe in Covent Garden. It's been ages since we all got together, so I might be late. Arthur's mind flashed back to the receipts he'd found in her wallet. Some of them were from cafes near Covent Garden. What time do you think you'll be back? We'll probably have dinner together, so around 9 or 10, I expect. Normally, he would have just said, have a lovely time. But today, his heart was heavy. As he watched Eleanor get ready, he noticed she was putting in much more effort than usual. She tried on several outfits and applied more makeup than she normally would for a simple get-together with friends. Right, I'm off. I'll be eating out, so you'll have to sort yourself out for dinner. Okay, be safe. Arthur watched from the window as she left. Eleanor's pace was quicker than usual, and she kept checking her phone as she walked. Left alone in the house, Arthur felt a suffocating sense of unease. He wandered into their bedroom. The dressing table was cluttered with more makeup than usual, and several discarded outfits lay on the floor, the evidence of a long deliberation. He opened a drawer and found a few more receipts he hadn't seen before. They were from a high-end makeup counter at a department store, for a sum much larger than she usually spent. He had no idea when she had bought these things. Was it to meet someone? He shook his head, trying to dismiss the thought. He had no concrete proof yet, and he wasn't sure if it was right to suspect her so intensely. By 8 p.m., there was still no word from Eleanor. Usually, she would call if she was going to be late. Arthur debated calling her several times, but stopped himself, afraid she would realize he was suspicious. It was 9:30 p.m. when Eleanor finally returned, half an hour later than expected. Sorry I'm late. We just lost track of time. So much to catch up on. Her voice was bright, but to Arthur, it sounded artificial. Did you have a good time? Yes. It was wonderful. So much to talk about after all this time. As his wife spoke, Arthur scrutinized her appearance. Her makeup was slightly smudged, and her hair was a bit disheveled. Strangely, the perfume scent seemed even stronger than before. Which friends were they? My old school friends. Haven't seen them in ages. Arthur wanted to press for more details but stopped himself, not wanting to sound like he was interrogating her. But deep down, his suspicion was growing into a monstrous certainty. The following Monday at work, Arthur found himself in an unexpected situation. He was at a pub with colleagues for lunch when he overheard a conversation from the next table. You hear about affairs among middle-aged women all the time now. Apparently, the 40s are the danger zone. Tell me about it. There's a woman in our block of flats. Rumor is, she's meeting a younger guy behind her husband's back. Arthur's heart sank. He couldn't help but wonder if his own wife was in a similar situation. In the afternoon, his colleague David approached his desk. Arthur, you really don't look well. Are you sure nothing's wrong at home? No, I'm just tired. Is it trouble with the wife? You hear about so many middle-aged couples getting divorced these days. David's words only amplified Arthur's anxiety. Is my situation so obvious that others can see it? No, nothing like that. I'm just exhausted. But in his heart, Arthur's suspicion was hardening into conviction. It grew stronger with every action of his wife's that deviated from the norm. That evening, he came home to find Eleanor texting on her phone. She was typing with intense focus and quickly shielded the screen when he approached. Who are you texting? Oh, just Chloe, asking if she got the money I sent. But Arthur was sure he had glimpsed a different name on the screen. He hadn't seen it clearly, but it looked like a man's name. Later that night, pretending to go to the bathroom, Arthur tried to check Eleanor's phone, but she had uncharacteristically tucked it under her pillow, making it impossible for him to access. Over the next few days, Arthur's suspicions began to take a more concrete shape. Observing his wife's patterns, he noted that she went out alone 2 or 3 times a week, always dressed more elaborately than usual. The outings were most frequent on Thursdays and Fridays, with the excuse of meeting friends or going to the supermarket. But when she returned from the supermarket, she would have very few groceries, and when she met friends, she would come home later than usual. The most damning evidence was her credit card history. Arthur checked her statement online and found multiple charges from cafes and restaurants in areas of London they never visited. Most of these transactions occurred during lunchtime or in the afternoon. Is it really happening? Arthur felt it was no longer a simple suspicion. Too many signs were pointing to one conclusion, but he still lacked definitive proof. A few days later, Arthur witnessed the decisive moment. He had finished lunch early and was taking a stroll near his office when he happened to see his wife. Eleanor was not alone. She was walking with a young man who looked to be in his late 20s. They did not look like mere acquaintances. There was an air of intimacy between them. Arthur hid and watched them. His wife and the young man entered a cafe and sat opposite each other at a window table. Even from a distance, he could see they were engaged in a serious conversation. Who is that man? How long has she been seeing him? Rage and betrayal surged through him. The fact that his wife of over 20 years was deceiving him, meeting another man, was impossible to accept, but he couldn't storm in. He might have been mistaken, and he knew he shouldn't act rashly. That evening, Arthur tried to act as normal as possible when he got home, but the way he looked at his wife had completely changed. "What did you do today?" "Nothing much. Just relaxed at home and then went to Tesco." The moment he heard her answer, Arthur knew. He was certain his wife was lying. It was no longer a suspicion. It was a fact. That night, Arthur couldn't sleep. He replayed the scene in his mind. What should I do now? How do I confirm the truth? And he was terrified that the day would come when those condoms he found in her wallet would actually be used. For over a week, Arthur observed his wife's behavior with even greater intensity. The image of Eleanor with the young man at the cafe was seared into his memory. After that day, everything seemed certain to him. On a Thursday afternoon, an opportunity arose for Arthur to leave work early. A sudden meeting cancellation meant he could head home 2 hours earlier than usual. He decided to use this chance to see if his wife was really at home. When he arrived and quietly opened the front door, the house was unnervingly silent. Usually he would hear the TV or the sounds of cooking, but today there was nothing. "Eleanor? I'm home," he called out, but there was no reply. He checked every room, but his wife was nowhere to be found. However, her smart outdoor shoes were still by the door. Only her comfortable trainers, which she wore for running errands, were missing. Arthur called her mobile. "Hello?" Eleanor's voice sounded slightly panicked. "Eleanor, where are you? You're not at home." "Oh, Arthur, why are you home so early?" "I'm at Tesco." "Tesco? Which one?" "The local one. I'll be back soon." After hanging up, Arthur checked the clock. It was 3:30 p.m. It seemed an early time for Eleanor to be doing the weekly shop. 30 minutes later, Eleanor returned. She was carrying just one small shopping bag. It was far too little for someone who had supposedly been at the supermarket for a while. "What did you buy?" "Oh, just some milk and bread." She placed the bag in the kitchen. But to Arthur, something felt off. Unlike her usual return from the supermarket, her hair was slightly messy, and her makeup was a little smudged. "Did you meet anyone at the supermarket? You were gone for a while." No, just got caught up browsing the aisles. You know how it is. Arthur studied his wife's expression. She seemed more tense than usual and appeared to be avoiding eye contact. That evening, Eleanor was unusually quiet. During dinner, she kept checking her phone and occasionally seemed lost in thought. Is something worrying you? Arthur asked gently. No, nothing's wrong. I'm just a bit tired. But her answer did not reassure him. It only made him more suspicious. The next day, Friday, Arthur deliberately drove past his house during his lunch break. He wanted to see if his wife was really at home. As he passed by, he glanced up at the window. The living room lights were off. She should have been home at this time. Arthur decided to wait in a nearby cafe. He wanted to see if she would return from somewhere. After about 30 minutes, Eleanor appeared, and once again, she was not alone. She was walking with the same young man he had seen before. Arthur's heart pounded as he watched the two of them. Eleanor and the man parted ways a short distance from the house, but not before having what looked like a serious conversation. The sight of the man holding Eleanor's hand and speaking with heartfelt urgency was a shock to Arthur. And Eleanor, for her part, nodded as if agreeing to something. So, my guess was right. Arthur couldn't watch anymore and left. Having witnessed such clear evidence, his mind was in turmoil. That evening when he went home, he tried to act normally. But the scene he had witnessed at lunchtime replayed in his head. Were you at home all day? Yes. Just a quiet day at home. Another lie. Arthur was now convinced. His wife was cheating on him. When the weekend came, Arthur became even more on edge. Every action of Eleanor's seemed suspicious, especially when she was on her phone. He was tormented by the question of who she was contacting. On Saturday afternoon, Eleanor said she was going out again. Where are you going? To meet a friend. I'll be late tonight. Which friend? An old school friend. Arthur no longer believed her words. He was sure she was going to meet that young man. After Eleanor left, Arthur spent the afternoon alone in the house, feeling frustrated. The more he thought about what his wife was doing and who she was with, the angrier he became. Around 8 p.m., unable to bear it any longer, he called her. Where are you? I'm at a restaurant with my friends. Why? When are you coming home? In about an hour. After the call, Arthur was even more certain. There was a defensive tone in his wife's voice. An hour and a half later, Eleanor returned. She was wearing more makeup than usual, and her clothes were different from what she had worn that morning. Did you change your clothes? Oh, yes. I spilled some food on myself, so I borrowed something from my friend's place. Another excuse. By now, every word from his wife sounded like a lie to Arthur. That night, after Eleanor was asleep, he cautiously checked her wallet again. He wanted to see if the condom he had pierced was still there. When he opened it, the condom was still there, but its position seemed to have changed slightly, and there were a few new receipts. One looked like it was from a corner shop near a Travelodge. It's confirmed, Arthur muttered to himself. He believed there was no longer any room for doubt. The following Monday, Arthur couldn't concentrate on his work. His colleagues noticed something was wrong. Arthur, are you really okay? You've been strange for days, David asked with concern. I'm fine, just tired. But inside, Arthur's feelings of anger and betrayal were escalating. The thought that his wife of over 20 years, whom he had trusted completely, was deceiving him was unbearable. During his lunch break, Arthur walked alone in a park, thinking, what should I do now? How should I confront her? I have to ask her directly. I can't just keep watching. but he wanted to secure more concrete evidence. He worried that if he confronted her rashly, she might deny everything. That evening, he observed Eleanor's behavior even more closely. The way she smiled at her phone, adjusted her hair in the mirror, and chose her clothes with extra care, he attributed it all to the other man. "Are you going out anywhere tomorrow?" he asked casually. "I haven't decided yet." "Why?" "Just curious." Hearing her reply, Arthur made a plan. Tomorrow, he would deliberately come home early and follow her. The next day, Tuesday, Arthur applied for an early leave after lunch. Citing a personal matter, he left the office at 2 p.m. He waited near his house, and just as he suspected, Eleanor left at around 3 p.m. Dressed more elaborately than usual, she looked like she was heading to a special meeting. To Arthur, this was definitive proof. He followed her from a distance. Eleanor took the tube towards central London, a different direction from where she usually went. She got off near a busy station and entered a cafe. Arthur watched her from across the street. About 10 minutes later, the young man appeared. It was just as he had expected. The two of them sat opposite each other inside the cafe and began a serious conversation. Arthur moved closer to observe them. It looked like Eleanor was earnestly asking the man for something, and the man nodded in agreement. When he saw Eleanor take the man's hand and thank him, Arthur couldn't bear it any longer, but he couldn't storm in. The shock of the situation left his mind blank. An hour later, the two of them left the cafe. They seemed to be walking towards a nearby hotel. Arthur couldn't watch anymore and returned home. Back home, Arthur sat on the sofa, stunned, for a long time. It was hard to accept that his wife of over 20 years was truly betraying him. Now it's certain. It's no longer a suspicion. He muttered to himself, swallowing his rage. At the same time, he felt a profound sense of sadness and betrayal. Around 7 p.m., Eleanor came home. She greeted him with a normal, "I'm home," but to Arthur, everything about her seemed false. "Where have you been?" "I went to meet a friend." "Which friend?" "Just an old friend." Arthur didn't ask any more questions. It was obvious she wouldn't tell the truth. That night, he couldn't sleep. The scenes from today kept replaying in his mind. His wife holding another man's hand. The two of them walking towards a hotel. He knew he had to make a decision. He couldn't let this situation continue, but he wasn't sure how to approach it yet. He decided to watch for a few more days, gather more conclusive evidence, and then confront her. Until then, he would act as usual. But in his heart, he felt that everything was already over. He had never dreamed that his 20-year marriage would end like this. As a couple more weeks passed, Arthur's conviction only hardened. The image of his wife, with the young man walking towards the hotel, was a constant presence in his mind, feeling like the final, irrefutable piece of evidence. On a Wednesday evening, Arthur returned from work to find Eleanor staring at her phone with a serious expression. She was so engrossed that she only noticed him when he entered the room, at which point she quickly flipped her phone over. "Anything important?" Arthur asked, loosening his tie. "No, nothing at all." But her reply was more awkward than usual. She clearly wanted to hide something. Throughout dinner, Eleanor remained distracted by her phone. When a notification pinged, she jumped and checked it, a reaction that struck Arthur as highly suspicious. "Who's that from?" "Oh, it's Chloe." But in the brief moment, he saw the screen. Arthur was sure it wasn't his daughter's name. It looked like a man's name, but he couldn't see it clearly. Later that night, While Eleanor was in the shower, Arthur felt a strong urge to check her phone. However, she had uncharacteristically taken it into the bathroom with her, denying him the opportunity. The following day, a Thursday afternoon, Arthur again had the chance to leave work early. An important meeting was canceled, allowing him to head home an hour sooner than usual. On his way, he decided not to call ahead. He wanted to see if Eleanor was actually at home. He opened the front door quietly and heard his wife's voice from inside. She was on the phone with someone. "You can't do that. It's too risky." Eleanor's tone was urgent and worried. "No, absolutely not. We can't let that happen again." Arthur crept towards the living room, eavesdropping on her conversation. "Do you understand? You have to be extremely careful. It'll be a disaster if anyone finds out." In that moment, Arthur was certain. He believed his wife was continuing her affair with the young man and was discussing it right now. When Arthur deliberately made a loud noise at the entrance, Eleanor hurriedly ended the call. "Oh, Arthur, you're home early." Her face was filled with alarm. "The meeting was canceled. Who were you on the phone with?" "Oh, just a friend." It sounded like a very serious conversation. "It was nothing. My friend just has some problems." Arthur studied her expression. Eleanor looked far more tense than usual and was avoiding his gaze. That evening, when Eleanor went to the bathroom, Arthur tried to check her phone again, but it was locked. Eleanor had never used a screen lock before. When had she become so security conscious? On Friday morning, Eleanor woke up earlier than usual and started getting ready to go out. She applied more makeup than usual and spent a long time choosing her outfit. "Where are you going today?" Arthur asked. "Meeting a friend. We have something important to discuss." "Which friend?" "Just an old friend." Her answer was as vague as ever. To Arthur, everything she said now sounded like a lie. "When will you be back?" "Late. Don't wait up for dinner." After Eleanor left, Arthur found the time alone at home unbearable. His mind was consumed with thoughts of who she was with and what she was doing. In the afternoon, unable to stand it any longer, he called her. "Where are you now?" "I'm at a cafe with my friend." "Which cafe?" "One in the city." "Why? Is something wrong?" Her voice had a slight edge of irritation. Normally, she would have answered his calls kindly, but today, she sounded as if he were interrupting something important. "No reason. Just wondering." Hanging up, Arthur felt his certainty grow. He was convinced she was with the man and saw his call as an intrusion. It was after 9 p.m. when Eleanor returned home. To Arthur, everything about her, her disheveled appearance, her faint flush, seemed like evidence of time spent with another man. "You're late." "Sorry. My friend had a lot on her mind, and we talked for ages." "What was the problem?" "It's personal. Nothing important." Arthur didn't press further. He knew she wouldn't tell him the truth. As the weekend arrived, Arthur's stress intensified. Being with Eleanor was a constant struggle, her every action fueling his suspicion. On Saturday afternoon, she announced she was going out again. "Meeting a friend again?" "Yes. We didn't finish our conversation last time." Arthur considered following her again, but decided against it, feeling it was too obvious. Instead, he waited at home, anxious to see when she would return. An hour after she left, Arthur looked around her room. Opening a drawer in her dressing table, he found a few items he had never seen before: a new lipstick, a new bottle of perfume, and a small, elegantly wrapped gift box. He opened the box. Inside was a beautiful necklace. "What is this? When did she buy this?" He examined it closely. It looked expensive, certainly not something he had given her, and too extravagant for her to have bought for herself. Could it be a gift from him? The thought sent a wave of fury through him. That she would accept a gift from another man and brazenly hide it in their home was unbelievable. He put the necklace back and returned to the living room, his mind in a greater turmoil than ever. Around 8 p.m., Eleanor returned, this time wearing a completely new outfit, different from the one she had left in. Arthur was now utterly convinced that every word she spoke was a lie. That night, after Eleanor was asleep, he checked her wallet again. He wanted to see the state of the condoms he had pierced. When he opened the wallet, one of them was gone. There had been 2, but now only 1 remained, and the packaging of the remaining one seemed slightly disturbed. She used it. The realization hit him like a physical blow. It was no longer a suspicion, but a cold, hard fact. His wife was having a sexual relationship with another man, but there was something strange. If the pierced condom had been used, there surely would have been a problem, yet he had seen no change in his wife. Perhaps she doesn't know yet? The following Monday, Arthur couldn't focus on work at all. The discoveries from the weekend had left his mind in chaos. "Arthur, are you really okay? You look terrible," a colleague remarked with concern. "I'm fine, just tired." But his condition was deteriorating. He wasn't sleeping at night, had lost his appetite, and was losing weight. During his lunch break, Arthur walked alone in the park, completely at a loss. Should I confront her directly? Or should I wait until I have even more undeniable proof? Just then, a text message arrived on his phone. It was from Eleanor. "Arthur, we need to talk about something important tonight. Please come home early." Reading the message, his heart began to race. Is she finally going to confess everything? Or is she going to ask for a divorce? The time has finally come. Arthur steeled himself and returned to the office. It seemed that everything would be decided tonight, but at the same time, he felt a deep fear. Was his 20-year marriage really about to end? What would he do with his life? For the rest of the afternoon, Arthur just stared at the clock, waiting for the end of the day. He was both anxious and terrified to hear what his wife had to say. When it was finally time to leave, he rushed home. He braced himself, thinking that tonight, all truths would be revealed. Before reaching his front door, Arthur paused and took a deep breath. He felt he was about to have the final conversation with his wife. "Whatever happens, I will face it calmly." With that resolve, he opened the door. But a situation entirely different from what he had imagined was waiting for him. After a month of observation, Arthur's suspicion had become an unshakable conviction. On his way home, after receiving Eleanor's text about an important talk, 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. When he opened the front door, Eleanor was waiting in the living room. Her expression was more serious than usual. "You're home early. Thank you. You said there was something important to talk about?" Arthur braced himself and sat on the sofa. The moment of confession had finally arrived. I wanted to talk about Chloe." Chloe?" The unexpected topic threw Arthur off balance. He had been preparing for a confession about an affair, and suddenly, his daughter was the subject. "I think Chloe's been having a hard time lately. She seems to be struggling to adjust to university life." "Really? She hasn't said anything to me." "I can just tell, as a mother. I was thinking, maybe we should go and see her. Have a chat." Listening to Eleanor, Arthur felt a wave of disappointment. She was avoiding their real problem and talking about their daughter instead. "All right, let's invite Chloe over for dinner this weekend." "Yes, That would be great. And that was the end of the conversation. There was no serious confession, no heart-to-heart talk as Arthur had expected. Instead, Eleanor went to the kitchen to prepare dinner, as if nothing was wrong. Arthur felt empty. It seemed his wife was still hiding everything, using their daughter as an excuse to evade the issue. He grew even angrier. The next day, Tuesday, Arthur found it hard to concentrate at work. The conversation with Eleanor kept bothering him. During lunch, his colleague David approached him. "Arthur, you seem really off lately. Is there a big problem at home?" "What kind of problem?" "I don't know. You just seem so down. Are things not good with the wife?" Arthur flinched. His situation was becoming apparent even to others. "It's nothing like that." You hear about so many issues with middle-aged couples. There are at least a couple of divorces happening in my neighborhood. They say it's often the women. Once the kids are grown, they suddenly want their freedom. Some even get involved with younger men. David's words felt like a knife in Arthur's heart. It was as if he was describing his exact situation. That evening, he observed Eleanor's every move with even greater scrutiny. Every glance at her phone, every look in the mirror, every outfit she chose. He was convinced it was all for another man. On Wednesday afternoon, Arthur managed to leave work early again. This time, he deliberately didn't call ahead. When he arrived, he noticed a pair of unfamiliar men's shoes at the entrance. His heart pounded. He opened the door quietly and heard Eleanor's voice from the living room. She was talking to someone. "I'm so worried. What if this happens again?" "It will be okay. I'll be more careful." It was a young man's voice, the same man Arthur had seen at the cafe. Arthur crept towards the living room and peeked through the crack in the door. Eleanor and the young man were sitting side by side on the sofa. "This is the absolute last time. It can't happen again," Eleanor said, her voice filled with desperation. "I understand. I'm so sorry." The man bowed his head in apology. Arthur could no longer contain himself and burst into the room. "What is going on here?" At Arthur's sudden appearance, both Eleanor and the young man jumped in shock. "Arthur, why are you home so early?" Eleanor's face went pale. I should be going," the young man stammered, getting up quickly. He avoided Arthur's gaze, his head bowed. "Wait, who are you?" Arthur demanded sharply. "He's just an acquaintance," Eleanor quickly intervened. "An acquaintance? An acquaintance you bring to our house for secret talks?" "It's nothing like that. He just needed some advice. Please, just give me a little more time. I can't tell you now, for Chloe's sake." Arthur looked from one to the other, his rage boiling over. To brazenly bring him into their home, it was beyond belief. "Advice? What kind of advice requires you to be in my house? It's a personal matter, not important." Eleanor avoided her husband's sharp gaze. The young man, unable to bear the tension, hastily put on his shoes and fled. Arthur wanted to stop him, but Eleanor stood in his way. "Arthur, please don't misunderstand. It's really not what you think." "Not what I think? You bring another man into our home, and I'm supposed to think nothing of it?" Arthur's voice grew louder. "He just needed help. Please don't think the worst." "Help? What kind of help requires him to be here?" Eleanor couldn't answer. She looked like she wanted to say something, but ultimately remained silent. That evening, a frigid silence hung between them. They ate dinner without speaking and watched TV in separate worlds. "Are you sure you're not hiding anything from me?" Arthur asked one last time. "Yes, it's really nothing." Eleanor repeated the same answer. That night, Arthur couldn't sleep. The scene from the afternoon replayed in his mind. His wife and that man, alone in their house, their panicked reactions when he appeared. It was all clear evidence. From Thursday, the atmosphere between Arthur and Eleanor became even more strained. Their daily conversations dwindled, and they moved around each other cautiously. Arthur's performance at work suffered. His colleagues were worried. "Arthur, you really should see a doctor. You look awful." "I'm fine." But he was far from fine. He wasn't sleeping, had no appetite, and had lost a significant amount of weight. On Friday evening, Arthur came home to find Eleanor getting ready to go out again. "Where are you going?" "To meet a friend." "Which friend?" "Just an old friend." He didn't ask more. He knew he wouldn't get the truth. After she left, Arthur sat alone, thinking. It was time to make a decision. He checked her wallet again. Both condoms were gone now, and there were new card receipts, mostly from places near hotels or motels. "It's confirmed," he thought. There was no room for doubt left. On the weekend, Chloe came home. Arthur was happy to see her, but felt a pang of complexity. "Dad, you look like you've lost weight. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, just been busy." "Mum's been acting a bit strange too. Is everything all right between you two?" Chloe's words surprised him. Even his daughter had sensed something was wrong. "Everything's fine, don't you worry." But Chloe looked unconvinced. The happy family atmosphere she was used to was gone. "Mum is always going out somewhere, and you're just sitting at home. Are you sure you're both okay?" "Yes, really. You just focus on your studies." Arthur tried to sound reassuring, not wanting to worry his daughter. But in his heart, he felt everything was already over. That night, after Chloe left, Arthur decided to have the final conversation with Eleanor. He couldn't continue like this. "Eleanor, we need to talk seriously." "About what?" "You know what? There's a problem between us." Eleanor hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, I know, but I can't. I can't talk about it right now." "How long are you going to hide it?" "I will tell you soon. Please, just wait a little longer." Her answer only strengthened his conviction. She was clearly planning something big, perhaps asking for a divorce or planning to leave with that man. "Fine, but I can't wait forever." "Thank you. I promise. I'll explain everything very soon." That night, Arthur couldn't fall into a deep sleep. The thought that his 20-year marriage was about to end weighed heavily on him. But at the same time, a part of him felt that once it was all over, he might feel a sense of relief. A few more days passed, and Arthur became even more agitated. Every little thing Eleanor did got on his nerves, and being at home felt like torture. And then, the moment finally came. The moment when Arthur could no longer hold it in, and everything exploded. After building up what he felt was sufficient certainty, Arthur's mind had already reached its conclusion. But inside Eleanor's heart, a completely different struggle was raging. A truth Arthur knew nothing about, and a deep agony over when and how to reveal it. On Tuesday afternoon, Eleanor sat alone in the house, lost in thought. Lately, her husband's gaze had become sharp, his tone cold. She could feel his suspicion, but she couldn't yet bring herself to speak. Her phone rang. It was Liam. "Hello, Mrs. Davies." "Liam, hello. Are you all right? How are you doing?" "I'm okay. Thank you for asking. But I think your husband was looking at me strangely the other day. Do you think he might be getting the wrong idea?" Eleanor sighed. So Liam had noticed Arthur's stare too. "It's possible. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. But don't you think it's time to tell Chloe's dad?" I don't think we can keep this a secret for much longer. Yes, I suppose you're right. I'll tell him soon. After the call, Eleanor fell into deeper thought. This had all started to protect her daughter, Chloe, but now it was tearing her marriage apart. When Arthur came home early, he found Eleanor still on the sofa, deep in thought. "Is something bothering you?" he asked. But Eleanor found it difficult to answer. "No, nothing. Just thinking. You've been acting so strangely lately. It's like you're hiding something." Arthur's words pained her. She was indeed hiding something, but it was completely different from what he imagined. "You'll find out soon." "Soon? When is soon? Please, just wait a little longer. I promise, I will tell you everything." Hearing her words, Arthur became even more convinced. She was either finalizing her affair or preparing to ask for a divorce. That evening, Eleanor called Chloe. She knew she couldn't delay it any longer. "Chloe, darling, it's Mum." "Hi, Mum. What's up? Can you come home this weekend? Your father and I have something important to talk to you about." "Important? What is it?" Chloe's voice was laced with anxiety. "It's difficult to explain over the phone. Can you please just come?" "Okay, I will. But Mum, are you and Dad okay?" Her daughter's question made Eleanor's heart even heavier. Chloe had already sensed the tension. "We're fine. Don't worry." But Eleanor herself wasn't sure if they would be. On Wednesday afternoon, Eleanor met Liam again. This time, they met further away from their home. "You look very stressed, Mrs. Davies." "I am. A little. I think I have to tell Chloe's dad everything now. I think that's for the best. Chloe deserves to have him know too." Liam gently took Eleanor's hand to comfort her. "Thank you so much for helping me. If it weren't for you, I would have made a huge mistake." "It's okay. It wasn't your fault. It was the situation." But I'm the one who scared Chloe. That's my fault." Listening to Liam's sincere remorse, Eleanor's heart ached. This kind young man had almost lost Chloe because of one mistake. "You have to be very careful from now on. Chloe is a wonderful girl. I know. I promise, nothing like that will ever happen again." As they were talking, Eleanor felt a prickling sensation, as if someone was watching them. She turned around and saw Arthur standing in the distance. Oh no, her heart sank. Her husband had witnessed them together again. Arthur met her gaze for a moment, before turning and walking away. His expression was cold and resolute. "Are you all right? You've gone pale." "I'm fine. But Liam, this has to be the last time. I don't think we should meet anymore." "I understand. Thank you again for everything." After parting with Liam, Eleanor walked home with heavy steps. She was afraid of the expression Arthur would greet her with. When she entered the house, Arthur was sitting in the living room, staring at a newspaper he wasn't reading. "I'm home," Eleanor said cautiously. Was his short, cold reply. "I'll get dinner started." "Don't bother. I'm not hungry." Normally, she would have insisted, but today, she didn't have the energy. For the rest of the evening, they barely spoke. As night fell, Eleanor gathered her courage. "Arthur, it's a misunderstanding." "Hell, what's a misunderstanding?" "Me meeting that person. It's not the kind of relationship you're thinking of." "Then what is it?" His voice was sharp and icy. Eleanor hesitated. Should she tell him everything now? But she hadn't spoken to Chloe yet. She wasn't sure if it was right to tell him first. "I can't tell you right now, but I promise you, it's not what you think." "How do you know what I think when you don't even know what I know?" Arthur's retort left her speechless. "Just It's a misunderstanding. I'll explain everything soon. How long are you going to keep saying that? This weekend. Chloe is coming home this weekend, and I'll explain everything then. Arthur said nothing more, but in his mind he thought, so, this weekend, it all ends. On Thursday, Eleanor sat at home, lost in an internal monologue. What do I do? I was trying to protect Chloe, but now the whole family is falling apart. Her heart was torn between her maternal instinct to shield her daughter and the guilt she felt towards her husband. I know Arthur is misunderstanding, but if I tell him now, it might make things harder for Chloe. But I can't keep hiding it. She sighed deeply. It felt like no matter what she chose, someone would get hurt. Her phone buzzed with a text from Chloe. Mum, I'll be home this weekend. But what is this important thing? I'm really worried. Reading her daughter's message, Eleanor felt tears welling up. This was all for Chloe, but in the end, she's the one suffering the most. That evening, when Arthur came home, Eleanor had composed herself. Arthur, sit down. We need to talk. About what? Please, just sit. Arthur sat on the sofa, watching his wife. It seemed she was finally ready to confess. First, I want to apologize. I'm sorry for putting you through this. But everything I did was for our family, especially for Chloe. Hearing this, Arthur's conviction grew stronger. She was clearly using their daughter as a pretext for a divorce. Because of Chloe? Yes, because of Chloe. But I can't explain in detail right now. This weekend, when Chloe is here, I will tell you everything. So we have to continue like this until then? I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. Eleanor bowed her head, but her apology only served to cement Arthur's conclusion. That night, they lay in the same bed, lost in separate thoughts. Arthur thought, so it all ends this weekend. 20 years of marriage, ending like this. Eleanor wondered. When I tell him everything this weekend, will he understand? And how will Chloe take it? On Friday afternoon, Eleanor called Chloe again. Chloe, when you come tomorrow, your dad and I have something to tell you together. Okay, but Mom, can you give me a hint? I'm so worried. Eleanor hesitated. Should she tell her now? Or wait until they were face to face? It's about Liam. Liam? What about Liam? Chloe's voice was filled with alarm. It's hard to talk about on the phone. Let's talk tomorrow. Okay. Hanging up. Eleanor sighed. Tomorrow, the truth would come out, and all these misunderstandings would hopefully be cleared up. But she was also afraid. She couldn't predict how Arthur would react, or what would become of their family. That night, before sleeping, Eleanor had one last thought. Did I make the right choice? Did my attempt to protect Chloe end up hurting our entire family? But there was no turning back now. Tomorrow, everything would be revealed, and they would have to start anew. Arthur was also waiting for tomorrow. He steeled himself, thinking he would finally hear the whole truth. Before everything, it had all started 2 months ago, on an evening when Eleanor was doing the washing up and received an urgent call from Chloe. Mum, can you talk right now? Chloe's voice was trembling, unlike her usual self. Something serious had happened. Of course. What is it? I'll call you back when you're alone. Dad's not around, is he? Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. A secret from her father? What could it be? Your dad's in the living room. I'm alone in the kitchen. Tell me. Mom. Chloe's voice was choked with tears. I'm in big trouble. What is it? What happened? I think I'm pregnant. The words hit Eleanor like a physical blow. Her mind went blank. Her daughter, a first-year university student, pregnant? What? Chloe, are you joking? I'm serious, Mom. My period is over a week late. I'm so scared. Eleanor nearly dropped the plate she was holding. Chloe, calm down. First, just calm down and tell me slowly. Mom, what am I going to do? If Dad finds out, he'll kill me. Chloe broke down in sobs. Eleanor felt tears welling up too, but she knew she had to be strong for her daughter. First, we need to be sure. It could just be stress. Was it with Liam? Yes. It was just one time. I swear, only once. But then, Chloe couldn't finish. Then what? You weren't careful? Liam said it would be okay. Mom, I'm such an idiot. Eleanor let out a deep sigh. She wanted to scold her, but now was not the time. Okay, let's get it checked properly. We'll go to the clinic tomorrow. I'll come with you. Of course I will. Don't worry. Thank you, Mom. But please, don't tell Dad. Please. Eleanor knew her husband, Arthur, well. If he found out his daughter might be pregnant, he would be devastated and would undoubtedly direct his fury at Liam. Okay, for now it's just between us. The next day, a Saturday, Eleanor took Chloe to a sexual health clinic. The wait for the results was agonizing. Thankfully, the test was negative. It was just a delayed period due to stress and an irregular lifestyle. Thank God. Eleanor breathed a sigh of relief. But Chloe still looked miserable. Mom, I feel so stupid. How could I have been so thoughtless? What's done is done. You just have to be more careful from now on. I don't know what to say to Liam. He's been so worried. Eleanor thought about this boy, Liam. He was Chloe's boyfriend, but she hadn't introduced him to Arthur yet. What kind of boy is he? He's a good person. He's 2 years older than me, in his 3rd year at university. He treats me really well. So this won't ruin your relationship? No. If anything, Liam feels even more responsible. That's why I feel so bad. After leaving the clinic, Eleanor and Chloe sat in a quiet cafe and had a serious talk. Chloe, maybe this is a good opportunity to introduce Liam to your father. I'm still scared. I don't know how he'll react. He has to find out eventually. Isn't it better to do it sooner rather than later? Chloe thought for a long time before shaking her head. Let me think about it. It just feels like too much right now. In the days that followed, Eleanor thought about what she could do for her daughter. A few days later, Chloe called again. Mom, Liam says I need proper education. What education? Sex education. He said this happened because we were both so ignorant, and that we need to be properly informed. Eleanor agreed with Liam. Her daughter was an adult, but there was still so much she didn't know. He's right. I'll help you. A few days later, Eleanor went to the local NHS clinic. She had heard they offered sexual health advice for young people. The nurse explained various contraceptive methods and provided some free supplies. Eleanor took a few condoms for her daughter and put them in her handbag. It's a bit awkward to give these to my daughter directly, Eleanor pondered. It would be uncomfortable for both of them, but not giving them to her was also a worry. In the end, Eleanor decided to keep the condoms in her own wallet. She would give them to her daughter when the time was right. Around that time, Liam contacted Eleanor directly. Hello, Mrs. Davies. It's Liam, Chloe's boyfriend. Hello, Liam. I've heard a lot about you from Chloe. I am so sorry about what happened. I should have been more responsible. Liam's voice was filled with sincere remorse. It's in the past. Just be careful from now on. Would it be possible to meet you sometime? I would like to apologize in person. Eleanor could sense his sincerity, so she agreed to meet him. When she first met Liam, her impression was positive. He was a polite and serious young man. Mrs. Davies, I am truly sorry. I should have protected Chloe better. Liam, don't blame yourself too much. You're both young. The important thing is to learn from this. I promise I will be extremely careful in the future, and I will always cherish Chloe. Listening to him, Eleanor felt that he genuinely cared for her daughter. Thank you. Please take good care of her. After that, Liam would occasionally contact Eleanor to discuss his relationship with Chloe and their future plans. Once I graduate and get a job, I want to marry Chloe. You're already thinking that far ahead? Yes. I'm very serious about her, but I haven't even been properly introduced to her father yet. Her father can be a bit protective. Eleanor thought of Arthur's personality. He adored his daughter, but his protectiveness meant he likely wouldn't easily accept her boyfriend. Her meetings with Liam continued, mostly discussing Chloe or their future plans. Eleanor grew to trust him. The problem was, she couldn't tell Arthur about these meetings, as Chloe wasn't ready to introduce her boyfriend to her father yet. I think your husband is suspicious of me, Liam said worriedly one day. What? I saw him near your house the other day, and he gave me a strange look. Do you think he thinks I'm some kind of troublemaker? Eleanor had also noticed Arthur's cold gaze lately. He definitely seemed suspicious. It's possible. Liam, we should be more discreet about our meetings. I know. Yes, of course. I don't want to cause any trouble for you. But the trouble had already started. Arthur's suspicion of Eleanor was growing, and she was tormented by her inability to clear it up. I have to tell Chloe to speak up. Eleanor knew she couldn't let it go on. The situation was threatening to destroy her family, but Chloe was still hesitant. Mum, please, just a little longer. When Liam and I are more settled, I'll introduce him. Chloe, because of you, things are getting strange at home. Your father is suspecting me of terrible things. Really? What did he say? He hasn't said anything directly, but the atmosphere is not the same. Chloe finally realized the gravity of the situation. I'm sorry, Mum. It's all my fault. It's okay, but you have to make a decision. We can't keep putting this off. Okay, I'll come home this weekend and tell Dad. It seemed Chloe had finally made up her mind. Eleanor felt a sense of relief, but also anxiety. She couldn't predict how Arthur would react, or if the misunderstandings would be resolved smoothly. I have to tell him everything. Once he knows the truth, he'll understand. Eleanor tried to convince herself, but she was still uneasy. She worried if Arthur would truly understand everything that had happened, and if their family could go back to how it was. But she couldn't delay any longer. This weekend, the time had come to reveal the whole truth, and now, this was the moment of truth. On Saturday afternoon, Chloe arrived home. Her expression was somber, as if she were carrying a heavy burden. Dad, Mom, hello, you're here. It must have been a long journey. Arthur greeted his daughter warmly, but he was tense, waiting to hear what his wife would say. Chloe, go and freshen up, then we'll talk, Eleanor said. The atmosphere in the living room was already heavy. Dinner was a quiet affair. Chloe kept glancing at her parents, while Arthur and Eleanor were lost in their own thoughts. So, shall we talk now? Eleanor began. Arthur steeled himself. The time had come. What is it? Chloe asked cautiously. First, I have an apology for your father. Eleanor looked at Arthur. I'm sorry for my behavior lately. which gave you reason to misunderstand. But there was a reason. Arthur listened, thinking, "Here comes the confession." "Chloe, I think you should be the one to start," Eleanor said, turning to her daughter. Chloe lowered her head. "Dad, I have a boyfriend." At those words, Arthur felt the conversation veer in an unexpected direction. "A boyfriend?" "Yes. His name is Liam. He's in his 3rd year at university, 2 years older than me." Arthur was momentarily confused. He had been expecting a confession of an affair, not the news of his daughter's boyfriend. "All right. How long have you been seeing him?" "About 6 months." "Why didn't you tell me until now?" There was a hint of disappointment in Arthur's voice. Chloe couldn't answer. Eleanor stepped in. "Arthur, let me explain." "Explain what?" "The man I've been meeting is Liam, Chloe's boyfriend." Arthur's mind reeled. The young man his wife had been meeting was his daughter's boyfriend? "I don't understand." 2 months ago, Chloe had a problem. Eleanor continued cautiously. "What kind of problem?" Arthur's voice became sharp. Chloe, her eyes welling up with tears, confessed. "Dad, I thought I had made a huge mistake. I was so scared that something had happened." Arthur's expression changed instantly. "What are you talking about?" "My period was late, and I was terrified I might be pregnant. I was too scared to tell you, so I only told Mum." Arthur was too shocked to speak. "Thankfully, she wasn't pregnant. It was just stress," Eleanor explained. "But after that, Liam felt terrible and contacted me. He wanted to apologize. That's why we met. So all those times I saw you..." Arthur's voice was filled with disbelief. "Yes, Liam was very remorseful, and I could see that he genuinely cares for Chloe. Then what I saw was..." Arthur recalled the scenes he had witnessed. "You probably saw us when I was counseling him or giving him advice." Eleanor tried to clear up her husband's misunderstanding. "Then, what about that thing in your wallet?" Arthur asked cautiously. "What thing?" "The condoms." At his words, both Eleanor and Chloe blushed. "Oh, that," Eleanor explained, flustered. "I got them from the clinic when I went for sexual health advice. I was keeping them for Chloe." "Sexual health advice?" "After what happened, I realized how little Chloe knew. I thought she needed proper education." The pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place for Arthur, but some parts were still hard to believe. "Then what about all the lies when you went out?" "They weren't lies exactly. I just couldn't tell you the truth yet, so I made excuses," Eleanor said apologetically. "Chloe wasn't ready to introduce her boyfriend to you." Chloe nodded. "I was scared of how you'd react, Dad. I thought you'd be angry, so I kept putting it off." Hearing his daughter's words, Arthur felt a complex mix of emotions. He was beginning to understand the magnitude of his misunderstanding. "And the time I saw him at our house? Liam came to apologize in person, but you came home suddenly," Eleanor explained. Arthur remembered that day. "So, that's why they were so panicked." "Yes, we weren't ready to introduce him, and then we were suddenly confronted." Arthur finally understood the whole situation. At the same time, he felt a deep sense of shame for his own thoughts and actions. "So, all this time, Arthur couldn't finish his sentence. He was too ashamed of how he had suspected his wife. "It's okay, Arthur. It was an understandable mistake." Eleanor tried to comfort him. "But why didn't you just tell me? Do you know how much I've been suffering?" There was a hint of resentment in his voice. "I'm sorry, but I had to think of Chloe first." "It's my fault, Dad. Don't be angry with Mum," Chloe said through her tears. "I was a coward. I was too scared of you." Seeing his daughter cry, Arthur's heart ached. Was I such a terrifying father? Chloe, am I that scary? Not scary exactly. I was just afraid of disappointing you. You silly girl. As long as you're happy, I'm happy. Arthur pulled his daughter into a hug. Well then, I suppose I'll have to meet this Liam. Really? Chloe's face lit up. Yes. If he's the one my daughter likes, I should meet him. Thank you, Dad. But a tangle of emotions remained in Arthur's heart. Relief, mixed with regret and shame for having suspected his wife. Eleanor, I'm so sorry. It's all right. I should have told you sooner. No, I was the one who jumped to conclusions. Arthur's face burned as he remembered his actions over the past few months, especially the act of piercing the condom. By the way, one of the condoms in your wallet was missing. Oh, that, Eleanor replied. I gave it to Chloe. I finally worked up the courage to give her some proper sex education. So that's what happened. Arthur realized how ridiculous his assumptions had been. That night, the family talked until the early hours of the morning. Chloe told them more about Liam, and Eleanor confessed how worried she had been. Arthur, too, admitted how wrong he had been, and sincerely apologized for suspecting his wife. I'm truly sorry. I was so hasty. It's okay, but from now on, if you think something is wrong, please just ask me. Don't jump to conclusions on your own. I will. I promise I will. That night, for the first time in a long while, Arthur slept peacefully. All the misunderstandings had been cleared up, and his relationship with his family seemed to be on the mend. But he also reflected on how little he had trusted his wife and how quick he had been to judge. From now on, I have to be more careful, and I need to talk to my family more. He made a vow to himself as he drifted off to sleep. In the days after the truth was revealed, Arthur was consumed by a deep sense of shame as he reflected on his actions. On Monday morning, while getting ready for work, his thoughts kept returning to the weekend's events. He had told his wife and daughter that he understood, but alone, he was painfully aware of how wrong he had been. Arthur, breakfast is ready. Eleanor served him breakfast as usual, but her warmth only made him feel more ashamed. Thanks. You look tired. I'm fine. Just a bit weary. But he was not fine. At the office, he couldn't concentrate. The events of the past 2 months kept replaying in his mind. I was such a fool. The memory of piercing the condom with a needle made his face flush. Knowing it had been an act of a mother's care for her daughter made his own actions seem petty and cruel. At lunchtime, David approached him. Arthur, did something good happen over the weekend? You look a bit brighter. Ah, yes. Just sorted out some family matters. That's good to hear. You looked so down for a while there. David's words made Arthur realize just how much his paranoia had affected him, even to the point where his colleagues noticed. That evening, he offered Eleanor a heartfelt apology. Eleanor, I am truly sorry. I was so wrong. I told you it's okay. It's all in the past. No, it's not okay. The way I suspected you. I'm so ashamed. His voice was thick with genuine regret, especially when I found that thing in your wallet. I know. I noticed its position had changed. Her words made him feel even more ashamed. And I did something even worse. Worse? I pierced one of them with a needle. Eleanor was speechless for a moment. You what? I'm so sorry. I think I was going mad. Arthur bowed his head in penance. Arthur? Eleanor was shocked, but she could also understand the pain that must have driven him to such an act. I know how much you must have been hurting, but to go that far? I know. I was wrong. I will never think like that again. Hearing his honest confession, Eleanor felt a mix of emotions. It hurt to know her husband had suspected her so deeply, but she also knew it came from a place of love. From now on, if you think something is wrong, please just talk to me. Don't judge on your own. I will. I promise. The next day, Arthur called Chloe. Chloe, it's Dad. He died. What's up? When can you bring Liam over? I'd like to meet him properly. Really? You'll meet him? Chloe's voice was filled with joy. Of course. If he's the person my daughter likes, I have to meet him. Thank you, Dad. Liam will be so happy. And Chloe, if you ever have any worries, you can always talk to me. Don't be afraid. Okay, Dad. I will. After the call, Arthur reflected on what an authoritarian father he had been. He vowed to be a kinder, more approachable father from now on. On Thursday evening, Chloe brought Liam home. He greeted Arthur politely. Good evening, sir. I'm Liam. Liam, I've heard a lot about you. Have a seat. Arthur studied the young man. He seemed polite and sincere. Sir, I am truly sorry for all the trouble. Liam bowed his head. We caused such a disruption to your family. That was our family's issue. You did nothing wrong. Arthur reassured him, feeling guilty for the suspicious way he had viewed him before. You care a lot for Chloe, don't you? Yes, sir. She means the world to me. That's all that matters. As Chloe's father, I ask you to take good care of my daughter. I will, sir. Thank you. Dinner that evening was a happy and harmonious occasion for the first time in a long while. As he talked with Liam, Arthur felt that he was a genuinely good person. Liam, you should come over more often. Thank you, sir. And when you're with Chloe, be careful about what needs to be taken care of. At Arthur's words, both Liam and Chloe blushed. Yes, sir. We will. That night, Arthur and Eleanor had a cup of tea together. Liam seems like a nice young man. He is. I had a good impression of him from the start. You did the right thing by helping him. Arthur acknowledged his wife's good judgment. But I wish you had told me earlier. I'm sorry. I was just thinking of Chloe first. Oh, I know. That's a mother's instinct. Arthur could finally understand his wife's heart. A few days later, Arthur noticed a change in himself. He made an effort to talk more with his family and tried not to jump to conclusions. Arthur, Liam called today. Oh, what did he say? He wants to introduce Chloe to his parents next week. Already? He's serious. I think so. Arthur thought about his daughter's future. It seemed he could now entrust her to a reliable person. Then we should meet his parents too. I agree. We should arrange a formal meeting. That evening, Arthur reflected on the lessons the past 2 months had taught him. Trust is so important. He was ashamed of having doubted his wife of over 20 years, and he realized how baseless his suspicions had been. I have to be more careful, and I have to trust my family more. He made a vow. This experience would make him a better husband and a better father. A few weeks later, Arthur was chatting with some junior colleagues at work. Sir, what's the secret to a happy marriage? One of them asked earnestly. Arthur thought for a moment. The most important thing is communication and trust. Communication? Yes. If you think something is wrong, don't judge on your own. You must talk it out, and it's important to trust your partner, Arthur advised, based on his own experience. It sounds simple, but it's really hard. But it's the most important thing. One weekend in May, the family had a barbecue. Chloe and Liam joined them, and Eleanor prepared delicious food. "Dad, you're good at grilling." "Of course. Grilling is my specialty," Arthur said proudly, flipping the sausages. "Let me help." No, Liam. You just sit with Chloe." Then Eleanor came out with drinks. "Shall we make a toast?" "To what?" "To our family's happiness," Arthur said as everyone raised their glasses, "and to trusting and loving each other." The clinking of their glasses echoed in the garden. That evening, after Chloe and Liam had left, Arthur and Eleanor sat in the garden, looking at the stars. "Are you happy, Eleanor?" "I am. And you?" "I'm happy too." Arthur took his wife's hand. That whole ordeal was a real lesson. From now on, I'll talk more and trust more so that misunderstandings like that never happen again. "Me too. If something is bothering me, I'll tell you right away, instead of worrying alone." Their promise was sincere. A few months later, Chloe and Liam had their engagement party. It was a small but meaningful celebration. "Chloe, you look beautiful." Arthur's eyes glistened as he saw his daughter in a white dress. "Dad, don't cry." "I'm not crying. I'm just moved. I know Liam will take good care of you." "I know he will. Don't worry. I trust him." That day, Arthur felt a profound sense of gratitude for his daughter growing up, and finding happiness with a good person, and for his family being there to witness it all. Late that evening, back home, Arthur and Eleanor reflected on the day over a cup of tea. It was a wonderful day. It was. Chloe looked so happy. "You've been through a lot too, because of this." "What are you talking about? It's what a mother does." Hearing her words, Arthur felt a renewed sense of gratitude for his wife. That night, before sleeping, Arthur looked back on the past year. A difficult time that began with suspicion had ultimately taught his family a precious lesson. Suspicion is easy, but trust requires far greater courage. With that thought, he fell into a peaceful sleep, confident that tomorrow would be another happy day with his family. Now, the dining table in Arthur Davies's home was filled with warm laughter every evening. And within that laughter were the sincere hearts of a family that trusted and loved one another. The home that had been filled with suspicion and misunderstanding just a few months ago was now overflowing with trust and love. At the heart of that change were conversation, communication, and above all, the will to believe in each other. Arthur could now say with certainty that true happiness begins not with suspicion, but with trust.